Sponsored by Squarespace. Shanghai Joe is a 1973 Italian-made Western film featuring a Japanese actor playing a Chinese immigrant in Texas, with dreams of fighting racism and becoming a cowboy. Oh yes, you see all those crazy shit on a video thumbnail? That's not all of it. When talking about bad Italian movies, one often brought up category is the unofficial remakes and sequels. This was the industry that made Alien 2 before Alien 2 and Terminator 2 before Terminator 2. It remade Jaws with surprising competency, not to mention one of the best Italian films of all time is also an unlicensed remake. These films often target the American market while pretending to be American-made, and Shanghai Joe emerged as one of the most American of them all. Today, let's take a look at this fascinating film and examine the history behind the industry that produced this gem. This is Shanghai Joe. Shanghai Joe tells the story of the titular Joe, a newly arrived Chinese immigrant played by actor Chen Li, because every Asian is called Li in the 70s. In actuality, the actor is called Miyoshin Hayakawa, who is indeed Japanese. The story sees Joe wanting a new life in America, so he travels from San Francisco to Texas. Gotta love the bombastic music. Klaus Kinski. Well, anyway, the film is split into two parts. The first half is a series of similar encounters. Joe arrives, usually to ask for a job.
I want to work as a cowboy.
Racist people make fun of him.
You never heard of a Chinese cowboy?
Joe humiliates them with his abilities. The racists get really salty. Oh, I know this one. It's the toe style. A fight scene later, the racists learn their lessons, rinse and repeat. It's like an old school video game with levels. Joe, like many other kung fu heroes, is OP as f***. His kung fu applies to everything from playing poker to healing bullet wounds. Dude gets dropped into a bullpen and he kills the ball with a single stomp, thus making this a better Yakuza adaptation than the Amazon series.
You yellow bastard.
Every single white man in this movie is racist. Only the men though. Chicks love that Shanghai Joe mojo. Eventually, Joe discovers a slave trafficking ring. Being a hero, Joe wages war against the traffickers to protect the American values of freedom and equality. No, that was not a joke.
Your kind of America isn't what I came here for. Your kind of American would break both your legs and leave you to the jackals and to the vultures. Only, I think there's another America, which has no room for degenerate scoundrels like you.
And so, the trafficking gang sends out 4 assassins. The second half of the film is all about these boss fights. We have Pedro the Cannibal, who's the most evil of the bunch because he cockblocks Joe. Next up, Burying Sam. He drops Joe into a spike trap before shooting him, but Joe leaps out of the pit and flying kicks him like Bruce Lee. Third in the line is Tricky the Gambler. Let me know if I'm crazy, but does he look like Tom Cruise to you too? Anyway, the saloon shootout is, I think, the best fight scene of the movie. Facing an army of gunslingers, Joe uses decoys and the environment to even the odds. It's pretty neat. Lastly, Scalper Jack, played by acting legend Klaus Kinski. Being a big-name actor means he's the only one to wound Joe. Too bad he's also too expensive for a full fight scene, so he just kinda dies. With the Elite Four defeated, it's time for the final champion, a racist Chinese stereotype. I don't know if this is stupid or brilliant, but yeah, in real life, some of the worst racists I met are fellow Chinese immigrants who believed in white supremacy. Anyway, Joe goes Kaioken, and the bad guy is like, Kyle what? Joe catches the bullet, and then stabs the final boss with his bare hand, because he's OP as Joe rides into the sunset. Fine indeed. If you are looking for a job in the Wild West, you're going to need two things. First off, you need a time machine. Secondly, you need a website from Squarespace. You can't just win someone over with a firm handshake. To show up your talent, having a website is critical. Whether it's a short introduction on a splash page or welcome your visitor with a full portfolio, a website can suit your specific needs. With Squarespace, all you need to do is choose a pre-made template, or if you are daring, start from scratch and edit to your liking. Your employer will be impressed by your dedication in creating a website of your own, not realizing just how simple the process is. It's the simplest way to boost your brand value. And if you have any trouble, you can always check out the numerous tutorials on offer or contact Squarespace 24/7 customer support. Start a free trial at squarespace.com/accencinema, use the code accencinema, and you can get 10% off your first purchase. Now, all you need to figure out is how to explain what they saw when you show your website to a 19th century gunslinger. Sorry, Squarespace can't help you with the risk of time traveling. But with everything else about websites, you can check out squarespace.com/accencinema and get started today. I'll admit, calling Shanghai Joe the best worst Italian movie is a big stretch. This movie has impressive production value with complex staging and compositions. Just look at the depth in this shot. It pans to the right, showing Joe's isolation, all while a mirror shows the rest of the gang. What a great shot. Not to mention the spectacular landscape and the decent for its time action sequences. It's a feast to the eyes. So then, why dump so much talent and money into such a full American movie? Sit back, baby. It's time for some movie history. This is the Cinecittà. Originally co-founded by Benito Mussolini, this film studio was established to revitalize the Italian film industry. It didn't do much at first, as it was primarily a propaganda film studio before being destroyed by the fires of World War II. After the war, however, it received extensive renovations and became the heart of the Italian film industry. To this day, the Cinecittà remains the largest film studio in Europe, situated in one of the most historical cities in the world. It is the perfect place to film some ancient epics, which is exactly what happened in the 1950s when the Americans came. Pegasus! MGM Studios' 1951 religious epic Quo Vadis was the first American movie to be produced in the post-war Cinecittà. In fact, the production is why the Cinecittà was renovated in the first place. Set in the final years of Nero's reign, the film makes use of the sprawling space and filled the frame with hundreds of extras. It was the sort of classic Hollywood glamour mixed with European culture and history. The production value continues to impress to this day. Subsequent productions such as Ben-Hur, Roman Holiday, and Cleopatra would also make use of the Cinecittà. It was an era dubbed Hollywood on the Tiber, referring to the Tiber River of Rome. The influx of expensive American productions in Italy shaped the cultural connection between the two nations. Italian studios looked to American films with admiration, and Italian productions began to imitate Hollywood. It led to a boom in the sword and sandal subgenre, followed by spaghetti western films. The trend lasted all the way through the 80s and 90s, resulting in numerous Italian knockoff films such as the Zombie series, a series of unofficial sequels to Dawn of the Dead. Many of these imitation films were released in English, targeting the American home media market, often with directors using an American pseudonym. Classic exploitation filmmaker Bruno Mattei, for example, released a bunch of such films under the name Vincent Dawn. If you ever wonder why Italy would make Western films, this was the reason. To Italian cinema, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Meanwhile, America was experiencing its own form of foreign cultural obsession. By the early 1970s, America was already knee-deep in the Kung Fu craze, thanks to TV shows such as the aptly named series Kung Fu. Back in the 70s, the show was a phenomenon. David Carradine plays a Shaolin monk. Armed with a sense of justice in Kung Fu, he searches for his American father in the 19th century Old West. Indeed, this is where the genius combination of Kung Fu and Wild West was popularized. Following the success of the show, Warner Brothers began importing Kung Fu films into the US. In 1973, King Boxer became the first Hong Kong film to top the US box office. Also named Five Fingers of Death, the film sees the protagonist fighting against rival clans and Japanese gangsters with his Kaioken. The subsequent release of Bruce Lee films are, of course, also immensely successful. Hong Kong Kung Fu films in this era often deals with themes of oppression and racial prejudice, shaped by China's experience in the two world wars. Incidentally, the US has just emerged from the Civil Rights Movement, a time when racial minorities fought for their equality. The timing was perfect, and the film struck a chord with America. The US would go on to create their own Kung Fu film, Enter the Dragon. Symbolizing this sexy freeway cultural exchange is this image from The Way of the Dragon. A Chinese dude and an American dude having a duel to the death in the Colosseum. With all the elements in place, suddenly an Italian film set in the Wild West featuring a non-Chinese actor acting as Chinese, fighting injustices with Kung Fu and wisdom, doesn't seem nearly as insane anymore. Shanghai Joe was a product of a time when curiosity outpaced the flow of information. Without the internet for research, the filmmakers tried their best to imagine what racism in America is like. The result is a hilariously poor imitation filled with childlike sincerity. It's like those deformed medieval drawings of animals, illustrated by artists who knew only verbal descriptions but had never seen the animals in person. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you may remember this being very common in films. The Karate Kid, Rush Hour. There was a time when Hollywood put its curiosity of the outside world front and center. The glimpses of foreign culture, questionable as it may be, was treated as a selling point. And that's something I missed. Of course, these days, if someone makes a movie this culturally inept, they would be rightfully blasted into orbit. Steven Seagal. Yet, a poor attempt is still an attempt. There is a reason why our reviews on Mulan, Shang-Chi or Kung Fu Panda focus on moral failings and successes rather than cultural inaccuracies. To be curious about the history of others and to admire the cultures beyond our own, this has been the motto of this channel since its inception, and I want to celebrate it. Today, outside of Disney animations, very few films exhibit the same curiosity. Film industries grew more insular, reflecting the general apathy of the world. Once again, conflict defines international relations, as those in power sow distrust even between allies. In its entangled mess of politics, Shanghai Joe is refreshingly optimistic. When I walk along with two others, they may serve as my teachers. I will select the good qualities and follow them, the bad qualities and avoid them. This is a passage from the Analects, a collection of wisdom from Confucius. I'm bringing this up because, in a way, Shanghai Joe is the demonstration of this tenet. When walking along with the US and Hong Kong, the Italian filmmakers were learning from them. By proclaiming his belief in a fair America, the film urges others to learn from America's good qualities. By fighting against racism, the film urges others to avoid the pitfall that was taking hold of the US. It is admittedly a simple lesson, as simple as the plot of Shanghai Joe. But to me, any attempt at learning is a respectable and worthwhile endeavor. Just for that, Shanghai Joe deserves the love.